Hi guys. So today, I thought I would show you all the books that I've decided to unhaul within the last 4 or 5 months. The reason it's that many is this is the worst idea I've ever had, by the way. They're gonna topple over any second and they're gonna fall on top of me and they're all gonna break and it's gonna be very sad. I have only started reading about a year ago, not even a year ago. So before that, I just accumulated books over years, and my reading tastes have changed quite a lot. So I just had a lot of books, and it turned out a lot of them I wasn't interested in. I have a lot of books to unhaul, and I'm going to show you all of them. I think there may be a couple missing. There is a children's book series that is called Heartbeat Hotel. There's a German book series. Two of them that I lent to a friend who wants to practice her German, and one that I misplaced. It's a larger book about drawing manga, which I was interested in about 6 years ago, and I'm not as much interested in anymore, so I decided to just pass it along to someone who is. I'm just going to go through them really quickly, sort of tell you have I read them, haven't I read them, also the reason I unhauled them. Let's get cracking because I have a feeling this is going to be long anyway, so cool. This is great. Love this for me. So that blew up in my face quite spectacularly. I'm just gonna continue on with the books. Just one thing I have to say in addition to that, I used to have a shelf in my bookshelf reserved books that I had like a sort of nostalgia connection to. A lot of them I've actually rebought on flea markets because I remembered listening to the audiobook or reading the book when I was like 10 years old, which is kind of pointless. I can always get them from the library again. There's a chance I might not like them as much because I've changed as a person in 10 years, so it was a bit of a futile idea of like clinging to childhood memories. I can always reread and re-listen, but I'll just do that on my own time and not try and keep all the books that I read as a child, which I did read a lot of. Not a good idea. So I'm not gonna continue with that. I'm just gonna get rid of them all and I'll be fine, I'm sure. The first that sort of belongs in that category is Detective Conan by Gosho Aoyama. It's such a long series. I watched it as an anime, and mangas confuse me a little bit. Like, there's specific stylistic stuff that doesn't really work for me, and it's really, I don't know, it's not a calming experience for me to read these things, and I think if I want to reminisce on like my teenage years where I watched the series, I'm just gonna watch the anime. And also, I think by now there must be like 100 manga. I don't have that kind of money. And also, if I literally just put them on my shelf, it's pointless. So, no. Okay, I'm gonna try my best to be quick, because there's so many. Das ist der Schläfer by Valentin Amatinger. Read this. It's a middle grade fantasy story. It was nice, but I don't want to reread it. The first candidate of the ones that I rebought because I wanted to reminisce my childhood, Die Mittelwinger by Kirsten Boye. A really cool story. It's also a fantasy story. It's great premise too. I really liked it, and the audiobook was amazing. There was like musical interludes that were perfect. Gonna listen to this again as an audiobook, but I'm not gonna read it because I don't have the music when I read it, so where's the point? Das Buch der Menschlichkeit by the Dalai Lama. So that's the book of humanity. I'm sure it's great. I'm not a very philosophical person, I'm not very spiritual. I'm not a Buddhist, and I guess I just bought it because it was like, I'm gonna be an intellectual and read a book by the Dalai Lama, but I'm not really interested in reading this. There's this one that I've kept from school, Klassenspiel by Sila Rees. It's about bullying, and I think there's an aversion to any book you've read in school, so no, I didn't want to reread this. Bleib bei uns Salima by Michaela Jari. It means stay with us, Salima. I'm sure it has great themes and interesting story, it's just that it's not for me. I don't want to get into like a reading slump because I try to force myself to read stuff I feel like I have to read. I have a couple of candidates for that as well. You know, these themes, I'm sure I'm going to find in other books that I'm going to enjoy reading more. Sommerferien, Sommerküsse by Patricia Schröder. This is something I read in 6th grade for school. It's a hate-to-love romance, middle grade / young YA story. Typical teenage stuff of like, I want to date, but also I am 12, so yeah, not for me anymore, but I remember finding this fun when I was that age, which, you know, was 10 years ago, so. The next one is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, which I want to love and I want to read, but it's about World War II. I don't vibe with historical fiction. Oh my god, my nails match so well with the book cover. That's amazing. I'm frustrated as well because I like, you know, see how grabby this copy is? Like, I got it used and it fits, like, the way it's, like, already broken fits so well with the, like, how the cover is made. I love it. But also, I don't want to read it. So I'm not going to, even though I feel bad giving this away. And I know people love the story and it's like sad and touching and all of that, and I find the style, like being narrated by death, the whole thing, I find it really cool, but just, no, I don't want to. Das Verzauberte Schloss by Edith Nesbit. It sounds like a middle grade fantasy story. It's just not my kind of vibe. Then we have Kimura Kimi, eine amerikanische Geschichte by Hadley Irwin. This is really cool. It's about a Japanese American girl, and she sort of grapples with her identity and tries to find out more about her father, who was second generation Japanese immigrant, I believe. That was really cool to read. It's not a story, because I didn't connect with the character, I don't feel like I want to keep the book, even though, you know, I obviously learned through it, and I would like to read more about these sorts of stories. Die Stadt der wilden Götter by Isabel Allende, which is the city of the wild gods. I don't know what the actual English title is, but it's a YA book. It's just, listen, the cover is great, and I know that Isabel Allende writes great stuff, but I'm just not in the mood for it right now. I don't know if I'll be at some point, but I don't know. I feel bad with a lot of these because I'm like, I should like this. This sounds like a good thing to read, but at the same time I really don't want to. And I don't want to force myself to read a bunch of books. So, no. Die Sopranistin der Königin by Carol Dines. It's a historical fiction, but it's based on his true life. It's like sort of YA-y. Again, historical fiction is just not my jam, although the sort of story that is being told about this girl who becomes a singer for a queen that is residing in a different country, something like that, and there's like issues of faith and the church and stuff like that, so it sounds really interesting. It's just very not my genre, and I've read through some parts of it, but it's just not for me. Die 13. Prophezeiung and Die letzte Chance by Valentine Emmertinger. It seems like a middle grade sort of adventure sci-fi type thing, but again, just the writing style and the middle gradiness of it, it's just, I don't know. I read into it a little bit, but it's just not for me as well. Der Goldschmied und der Dieb by Tonke Dragt. It's a bit like sort of fantasy, sort of fairy tale-esque. Just didn't vibe with me, I have to say. But it's a really floppy book, which I find very enjoyable. It's very heavy too, but yeah. We have Lola by Melissa Scrivener Love. I intended to keep this, but then I thought about it and I was like, I like the story, but I don't think I'm gonna reread it. And like, it brought up some good points, but it was also quite brutal. I do want to continue the series and like see where it goes, but at the same time, I don't think I'll be rereading it, so I'm giving it away. We have Morgen kommt ein neuer Himmel by Laurie Nelson Spearman. Yes, The Life List in English. I also intended to keep this, but then I decided that there was a lot of it that was sort of okay. There was like a romance that was, you know, there's some elements that I really liked. The way grief was discussed was really cool, I thought. It made me cry, so that was cool. But at the same time, a lot of the rest was like, okay, and the premise was good, but you know, I don't need to keep it. I didn't want to reread it. I don't think so. It's going. On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I loved The Hate You Give, but I read the beginning of it and it was just not for me, I think. We have 28 Days Long, 28 Tage lang by David Safir. It's about the uprising in the ghetto in Warsaw, the Polish capital. Again, Nazi time. There's like a romance in it. I would rather watch a documentary about it, I think, than read a book about it. I don't know. And again, historical romance or historical fiction, that is just not me. Magic out of the Septimus Heat series by Angie Sage. I read the first book, or I listened to the first book, and so when I found it again on a flea market, I was like, I want to reread it. Oh my god. Again, I never owned the book, so I don't have a particular connection to this one. And I can just, you know, get it from the library when I want to reread it again. And I know that I really like this. I'm not going to forget about it, so it's fine. We also have just the fourth part of the Twilight series, Beste Männer der Nacht, so Breaking Dawn, by Stephanie Meyer. For some reason I like this bit the best. I don't know what's wrong with me. I guess I like the fact that Bella finally, like, was a vampire and it was really cool. And, like, her intrigues and stuff like that. Spoiler, by the way. So, that was kind of cool. And, like, her powers and stuff like that. I guess I wanted to keep it, but, like, also, I don't want to keep it. Flugstunden by Matthew Quick. Sounds like an adult sort of finding yourself type book. I'm just not into it. Although it's funny in the way it was written, I was also not very, like, vibey with the main character. I mean, I read like 10 pages, but also, I don't know, I'm just not that interested. Next we have Blackout, Morgen ist es zu spät by Mark Ellsberg. Is this German? I don't know. It's a thriller, sort of techie thriller. I read the first 50 pages and then it was on my nightstand for a month. So, 1.5 months? I don't know. Clearly wasn't that much into it. There was too many adults and too much technical speech. Like, some of it is interesting. Like, generally speaking, when it's like techie stuff, I'm interested. When it's about the energy network, I just couldn't be bothered. And it was it seemed like very tedious to read through another, like, however long this book is. Oh yeah, 800 pages. No, thank you. Next we have Der Kampf um Gullyworth by Susan Hill. I read this in March, I want to say. It's a middle grade fantasy story. It was okay. I don't want to reread it. We also have Will and Will by John Green and David Levithan. I remember reading bits of it when like 5 years ago, and I like jumped into it a little bit to see what it was like. I'm not keen on reading the entire story this time around, so I'm not going to. Next we have Artemis Fowl, Die Rache by Ian Colfer. I want to read it, but I don't even know if this is the first part. I might just listen to the audiobook at some point. Also, I think it's like children's sort of sci-fi fantasy stuff, so I'm not sure that I'm gonna like it. I might. Maybe I'm 10 years too late to read it for me to actually really enjoy it, but I'm going to, but it's not gonna be this one. And I'm not like keen on reading it right now, so... The next two we have, this may be blasphemous. So I used to be a really big Dan and Phil fan. I mean, am I still? I don't know, probably. Like, they seem not nice people, but I'm not very, like, in the fandom anymore, if I ever was. I did see their shows, and so at their first show, I had a meet and greet with them, so I have The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire signed, and then I have Dan and Phil Go Outside, which I bought signed. Neither of which, like, I thought about putting them into, like, just into, like, a memory box and just be like, this is a memory, but also I've never properly read them. There is no memories here for me. I'm just gonna watch their videos if I want to be reminded of it, and that, yes, that the sign is cool, but the meet and greet was cool, and that's, like, means more to me than just the signatures, so I don't need these. And I'm sure there's gonna be someone who's gonna really enjoy them, so... I'm just going to try and find those people to get this to. From Kätzchen das Menschen wollte by Lloyd Alexander. It's like a fairy tale-esque type story. I read it in like half a day. It was okay. Very fairy tale-esque, very middle grade in its sort of solutions and stuff. Don't want to reread it, so I'm not going to. I read Children of Blood and Bone. In German it's called Children of Blood and Bone Goldener Zorn by Tommy Adeyemi. I love this cover so much. It's so cool. And it has this like matte finish to the touch, and like the book itself, like holy shit. That's so cool. I don't know, I don't know how I feel about fantasy these days. I used to love it as a child. I don't know anymore. This didn't feel like a super, except for the world obviously, which is really cool, and the themes of it, very good. There are some quotes where it's like, Jesus, like this just punched me in the face, but thank you. It's not the type of thing where I'm like, I'm going to put this on my shelf, I'm going to reread it 3 times. I want to continue with the series, but I might just do that as an audiobook from the library, something like that. Maybe someone's going to appreciate this nearly untouched copy. I always take the dust jackets off, so it still looks very pristine. Die wundersame Geschichte von September, die sich ein Schiff baute und das Feenland umsegelte. I'm not going to translate that. I don't care. By Catherine Ambalente. I read this a couple months back, and it's just, you know, I put it on my shelves and I was like, I'm going to read the rest of the series. But it's like a middle grade fantasy. It's quite whimsical. It's not my type of story. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. I don't think I'm going to continue with the series. I might just try and find out what happens because I'm curious like that, but I don't think I'm going to read the rest of it. Although, again, I really like the book. I think it looks really pretty, with like the red and like this, I don't know. I like it, but I'm trying not to keep books because they look pretty. So, no. This is a random, very random book. I thought I would need this for a paper. I did not end up needing it for that paper because I don't think I actually wrote that paper. Sexuality and its Discontents by Jeffrey Weeks wrote this. Yeah, it's a book about sexuality, but it's also like 20 years old at least, I think. So, I don't know, I thought I would need it for the paper. I didn't end up needing it for the paper. I don't want to read it. Lily oder die Reise zum Wind by Angelika Bartram. Sounds like a really sweet middle grade fantasy story, whimsical kind of thing. Not for me. So, this is another one of those sentimental buys. This is Gespensterpark, die Geheimtür zur Geisterwelt by Melissa Arold. I used to read this when I was really young. I presume like 8 or something. Obviously, that sort of stuff doesn't hold up the same way it did it for me as a child. So, I don't need to keep all these books. What is wrong with me? Another sentimental buy, which I actually figured out that this is the second part to a book. Like, I read the first part like 10 years ago, and then now I have the second part to it, but I thought it was the first part. I was gonna reread it for sentimental reasons, so that was just all kinds of stupid. It's Pink Muffin at Berry Blue by Hortense Ulrich and Joachim Friedrich. It's a funny premise. The first book starts with someone just misspelling an email, and then they sort of become friends, and like all sort of stuff happens. It's fun. It's just all emails back and forth. So that's cool. But don't think this is going to be for me now. And I also don't remember what happened with the first book anymore very well. So I might reread that at some point, again, for sentimental reasons, but I don't need the second part. Home stretch. We only have a couple to go. So we have The Anti-Feminist Hedwig Dom. This is like 100 years old. 120? I think this was published around 1900. It's an essay collection by Hedwig Dom. It's about anti-feminists. And it was really cool. Like the first 1.5 essays, I was like, yes, this is great. But they were really short and really concise, and there was stuff where I was like shocked that it's still the same today, or very similar today. But then we got into like a 30-page analysis on why Friedrich Nietzsche is anti-feminist, which is like a really cool thing to read and like to consider, especially with like an account from someone who, I don't know when Nietzsche was living, but I presume someone who lived when he also lived. That's a cool thing. But also, I was bored out of my mind, and it was very tedious to read. So while I enjoyed the first 1.5 essays, the rest just didn't work for me. So I'm going to give this to a friend. Then we have Skogland by Kissenboyer, another sentimental read. It's about princesses. Skogland is like an island nation, and there's like political intrigue, but it's a middle grade story, I think. So I don't know, I really liked this when I was younger. I read through bits of it when I was like older, like last year. But again, I don't need the book. I'm gonna read it maybe from the library, maybe not, we'll see, but I don't need it. Then we have one that I had on my shelves for like ages, which is Wenn der Keks redet, haben die Krümel Pause bei Malte Pieper. It's a comedic account of school in Germany, which is really fun because you can recognize a lot of stuff when you're German from it, and it's fun. But generally speaking, it's not something I'm going to reread. There were like some bits that I remember reading that were really fun, where it's like, oh my god, this is so cool, this is so funny. But I couldn't find them again, and like I'm not going to read the entire book just to find like a couple of things that was like, oh, that's good. Das ist es mein Leben by Stephen Chbosky. I read the first 100 pages. I watched the movie when I was younger. It's great. I'm going to rewatch the movie if I want to feel like that again. But the book, I just could not get into. I don't know if the story didn't work for me, or maybe because it's just a sort of contemporary type story, I don't know. Die verheimatlichen der Welt by Heike Enter, it's like an essay collection. I started reading and I was like, wait, this is super theoretical and philosophical. No, I don't know, I was just over that sort of thing, so I'm gonna give these two to a friend as well. I thought this was just a funny sort of historical fiction story, but it's actually a 400-page autobiography of the guy that tried to kill General Franco. I'm not that much into autobiographies, especially not if they're 400 pages long. I don't know, like, technically I should like these things, but I don't, and I don't want to read it. We also have Die Nacht in der Mr. Singh verschwand by Sabine Ludwig. I got this like legit 10 years ago when she was doing a reading and signing at our school. This is also signed to me. This was literally, it was 12 years ago. Excuse me. It's not a great sort of crime story. I don't want to read it. I took a picture of the signature, obviously, and I appreciate that she signed it for me, but yeah, the time is sort of past for me to read it, and I don't want to anymore. The last one is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I thought I would like this. I was hoping I would like this, but it's a contemporary story. I read the first 30 pages, and from what I understand, it's quite a dysfunctional relationship. I don't know why, but I don't think that's something I want to read about. I might watch the series when I have some way to watch it, but I don't want to read the book, unfortunately. Although I did do a crime. A friend of mine gave this to me because she didn't want it anymore, and she wrote like a message for me in the front. So I just cut that page out. I know that's blasphemy, but I did, because I'm a wild child. I normally don't harm my books like that. I do write in them, but I don't usually cut pages out. But I wanted to keep that message, and I very much did not want to keep that book. So that's what happened. I'm sorry. These are all the books that I'm getting rid of. I don't know where I'm going to give them to. For now, I'm just going to store them somewhere, and we'll see. This is, I think, a total, maybe I miscounted, but on my cheat sheet it says 56 books, which is remarkable, especially because I think on my shelf of just all the books that I own, the sort of fiction and non-fiction books that I own, there's other like language learning books and stuff like that, I'm not counting that, but just the books that are on my normal shelf are like under 40 that belong to me, and so getting rid of 56 is quite a lot of books, but I'm happy with it. I might still get rid of some before I move, but for now this is the big unhaul. Hope you enjoyed. Yeah, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.